Hi, and welcome to our episode on Next Generation Networking. With our guests Damian Murphy, Product Manager for Networking at Proact, and Jan Van de Laer, Director of Sales Engineering at Juniper Networks, we cover why the term network management is so 80s, and today we talk about AI operations instead. Why today is the golden age for network engineers, and why end users aren't necessarily doomed to put up with subpar Wi-Fi forever. I hope you have as much fun listening to this episode as we did recording it. Enjoy the show.
Okay, so, all right, networking. I want to start off this episode with a little story, a true story, a recent story, a personal story, where I recently bought the top-of-the-line Wi-Fi 6 enabled 2-point mesh network for my home. As you know, I'm a tech geek by nature, and I want to have a good network because I have a lot of connected devices and stuff. And so I unpacked these things. I set them up. I was blown away by the speed and all the different features and stuff and settings I could do within the management console. But my Sonos speakers, my new Sonos surround system, stopped working. And I was like, how is that possible? This is Wi-Fi. It talks Wi-Fi. And so I fiddled around, tried to find troubleshooting, and trying to find the issue took a long time. A lot of effort, and it kind of, I got bummed over my new cool things. And contacting Sonos, contacting the router company. And after a while in forums, I discovered that the only thing that solved it was to downgrade the firmware to a 6-month-old firmware. And that solved it. And now I always like to have things updated, but I don't know if I dare updating, So this just tells, this experience is obviously just the network in one man's home. But network management can be quite a hell to go through, and I can't imagine how it is to be a networking professional in a big and large, maybe enterprise company. So obviously, I have Damian Murphy, the product manager for networking from Proact, with us, and Jan Van de Laer, the director of sales engineering at Juniper. I have some. Oh, there you are. Yeah, exactly. That's it. Mixed guru. And so, I guess you are the real experts here. I have, networking is not my number one trait. And so, how is it working within networking, and what are the challenges, and where are we going, and how, what's new in the industry?
Well, I think what you've just given is a really good example of what life is like as a network engineer. You'll find some problem, and it's really irritating because everything is working except for one tiny little bit, and you can spend hours and hours and hours trying to resolve one tiny little thing. And I think that's why Wi-Fi often has a bad reputation, because we just expect it to work. And when it doesn't work, there are kind of two reactions to it. One is to raise a trouble ticket with your help desk and sit around while they spend hours and hours and hours trying to fix it. Or what most people do, which is just to live with it but moan about it. So I have a similar home experience recently, because I just recently changed my broadband, new Wi-Fi router. And what I found was that I have Wi-Fi calling on my mobile phone. So when I'm in my office, what I find is that on the mobile phone, the Wi-Fi calling doesn't work. Now, I've got a booster in my office, so it's like 3 feet away from the router. My laptop, everything else works perfectly. No connectivity from my mobile phone. So what do I do as an experienced, highly technically skilled network engineer? I go, worry about that another day. I've got more important things to worry about. I just put up with the fact that the Wi-Fi is rubbish. And it was only when I just had a spare time to look at it and actually did something else, I found out the problem wasn't the Wi-Fi, it was my phone. It wasn't doing roaming properly. But that's a typical sort of way network engineers do. You prioritize The things you can fix quickly, you fix. The things that are going to be tricky, you try to push away. And one of the things we're all used to pushing away is Wi-Fi, because historically it was always a complete pain in the ass to troubleshoot. But that's changing.
Yeah. It was, and it still is, Damian, in all fairness, because Nicholas, I had a similar situation here at my house. I wanted to bring some modern technology to the home. We have on the front gate, we have a video camera that was with a coax cable going to the main house, but it was still a black and white video camera. And some people that you didn't want to have on your doors that were like Bible salesmen or something like this, they knew when they pushed the button, they were going to stand in an angle of the camera and couldn't see who was actually on the front gate. So I decided, why don't I bring in this new Ring device onto the front gate with a more open angle camera that I can do the speech and everything. And I put it in, and guess what? It worked and it didn't work, and it worked and it didn't work. I constantly had to reset the damn thing, and I was like, what on earth is going on? What do you do? If this is any other off-the-shelf network, you're in the woods. What I did with Mist, luckily I work for this company, Mist, with AI. I have it at home. I have it at home. So, and this is a good remark, because Mist is not for the huge organizations. It can work and really be helped from one AP, one switch, one router to humongous networks. Yeah. And here in my house, it helped in this way, that I just went into the system and typed unhappy users. That's it. And immediately this Ring phone came up, and it said it was not happy. And it was really bouncing between 5 gigahertz and 2.4. And that is what lost the connection. And actually, what was even worse is that it started with 2.4 and it jumped to 5 gigahertz, but it got stuck on 5 gigahertz. It never went back to 2.4. So that is why I constantly had to reset this device. So now that I know this, the AP where this Ring device is connected to, I just disabled 5 gigahertz, or I create an ESS ID only for 2.4. And since I've done this, in half an hour it was fixed. This network is now, or that video communication is running so stable. And how long would you have spent in your network?
Yeah,
if you had this issue?
Amazing. I would have obviously went out to the forums, tried different things. Perhaps, maybe, had been lucky and tried something like it, but that would have taken a lot of time and effort and energy and happiness from me.
Yeah.
So, but rewind there. You went into the what and wrote like a message.
Oh, yeah. So if you look into, and Damian, please back me up here if you want, one of the, and I heard you say, Nicholas, a little bit earlier today, I heard you say network management.
Yeah.
I think, sorry for maybe putting it this way, that is so 80s. We're talking today about AI operations, artificial intelligence operations, because that is what we do. Yeah. The network, as you said, even if you look at your own house, I think I have my DHCP server is distributing 137 devices just in my house. That is 137 things that can go wrong.
Right.
And if it goes wrong, what the hell is happening? Yeah. Now extrapolate this to a medium-sized company. Yeah. I can't think directly. Let's maybe say Boots in the UK, or maybe. We have smaller shoe stores or shoe chain stores.
A national chain.
A national chain, or maybe just in a citywide. But if something goes wrong, first and for all, how would you know that it goes wrong? Yeah, Damian, I don't know how it is with you, but in every organization that I've worked for before you open up a support ticket, your troubles is up to here. Your head is blowing up because, man, this is now the 10th time I'm losing the connectivity. This is like, I'm going to open a support ticket. Yeah. And then, this is sometimes going into a void, because the response time is between 1 and 14 days, depending on the company you work for. And in the meanwhile, you are not getting helped. Wouldn't it be nice that with an artificial intelligence system, that we give the warning to IT, hey guys, these devices are not in a good state. These devices are repetitively not able to connect. That instead of waiting for your clients to open tickets, you open tickets with your clients. You can proactively go to your clients and say, hey, you know what? This and this and this is going wrong. Or you just fix it and they don't even know they had an issue. Yeah, That is what we do. So with this Marvis is our personification of the artificial intelligence operations, where you just, in natural language programming, you ask to Marvis, say, hey, show me the unhappy users in this location. And it will give you a whole list on unhappy users. Isn't that cool?
Yeah, I think it's just game changing. Really, I know it's a bit of a cliche term, but it is, because what's the main problem we have is that, first of all, most users in an office, unless the Wi-Fi is actually broken and doesn't work at all, they just put up with bad Wi-Fi, or you pick your laptop up and go and sit at the desk. But there's situations where you couldn't raise a trouble ticket anyway. If you're an IoT device, you can't raise a ticket.
Yeah.
If you're going into a shopping mall and using their guest Wi-Fi, and the Wi-Fi is rubbish, you go, I think I'll just go to the help desk and raise a trouble ticket. No, you won't. No. Or if you're in education, like higher education, you've got students coming in and off campus all the time. They're with their friends. They're late for lectures. Certainly, if you're anything like me, you're always late for a lecture. You're rushing around. Wi-Fi is rubbish. You just accept the fact at that university, at that college, Wi-Fi is rubbish. You don't raise trouble tickets. So for me, I agree with what Jan's saying, that the number one major change that this is bringing is it's allowing networks to improve without relying on people raising trouble tickets. And that's transformative, really.
Obviously, everyone appreciates a good Wi-Fi. You should probably have such a good Wi-Fi that no one ever thinks about the Wi-Fi. It's just working. But, I've been to a university where the Wi-Fi was, patchy, to say the least. I didn't change I didn't go to another university for it. But obviously you want to have as smooth things as possible, at least when you're doing that tech refresh. But I'm trying to, see the financial benefits for, let's say, a store or an airport, in this case, to have a great Wi-Fi. Let's say it's an airport. I have 2 hours to kill. I'm using the very spotty Wi-Fi there, and maybe I disconnect and use my 4 or 5G connection instead because it didn't work. But then I got thinking, often they have landing pages and maybe, rebates or offers that you come to as soon as you connect to a Wi-Fi at an airport, for instance. And I guess that is one reason to have a good Wi-Fi, to make, customers use it so that they might see this offer and go and buy stuff in the store, for instance. Do you have any other cool examples, Jan?
Oh, for sure, Nicholas. So, wow, there are so many points here. So schools, it's almost imperative to have a really great Wi-Fi experience. Think about the following. You are a PhD student and you need to upload something in time, and you have a patchy network and it's not going there, and you need to go back to your professor and say, man, I wasn't able to upload my massive doctorate
right,
because of the Wi-Fi was bad.
That's the new. The dog ate my homework.
Yeah, the dog ate my homework. Exactly. It was the Wi-Fi. So the Wi-Fi ate my homework. So that is one. The other one, if you look into airports, if you look into shopping malls and so on, they spend money in developing an app to connect better to their end users. Yeah. And if the Wi-Fi is not good, or your 4G is not necessarily good either in that area, the adoption rate of that app, the investment of that app that you created to bring your customer closer to you has no meaning at all, because it's just sitting there dead on your phone. You cannot even do wayfinding. You cannot even get those commercials to you. So that is the other thing. And I know of a big clothing chain, where the CIO got fired because the Wi-Fi was not working well, because they were losing transactions money transactions because it was not a great Wi-Fi. Yeah. And as a matter of fact, people immediately blame the Wi-Fi.
Was it at the point of was it because the point of sales machines were Wi-Fi connected, or what? How?
Well, not the point of sales machines, and that is maybe something that I should have put there. What they want to do is, instead of that shopping experience, if you go into a clothing store, you go fit your clothes, then you need to wait on the till. That could be a queue of 10, 20 people. If you're not in a mood or in a hurry, you just drop your clothes and you're gone. Yeah, that's a missed opportunity. So what they said is that all our store workers, we're going to hand them a mobile device, that builds with like a keypad and a sliding cart for your credit cards and so on. We're going to hand that to all the store workers that you can charge or you can pay immediately as you have your clothes and walk out, so that you don't have to queue again. Now, that only works when you have great connection with this device.
Right.
Yeah. So with the choice they have made before was a full stack of one of our competitors, it didn't work at all. Yeah. And guess what? It was Wi-Fi to blame.
No. Okay. Yeah.
It was Wi-Fi to blame. So then one of the IT directors of this organization, he said, hey, you know what? I heard on this Wireless Wednesday. So every other week we do a Wireless Wednesday where we can invite your customers or friends and family or whoever is interested. And we explain what we do. And this guy, he heard about us and he said, hey, let's put, the missed Wi-Fi into our stores. And we had one proof store. And guess what, Nicholas? It still didn't work.
Interesting.
However, we were able to exclude it was not a Wi-Fi problem. It was not a server problem. It was not this. It was not this. It was not this. What it was that the MTU of the firewall, where we don't have any connection into that firewall, we could detect that the MTU of this firewall was wrong set. Now, think about when you say network management, you have to have SNMP traps and syslogs coming from this router and syslogs coming from this switch and syslogs and SNMP coming from here. And then you need to triage, do a horizontal search, and then you do a deep dive, and hopefully it is there. Weeks will pass by. Here, just in a couple of days, we saw, hey, there is the MTU. No SNMP integration, no syslog integration, nothing that, just pure old artificial intelligence. Hence the reason why we want to call it AI operations.
All right. Well, that I can see the financial benefit of that definitely right there, obviously. Okay, so the AI in this case obviously works as a kind of a software or network engineering team, finding issues like that as well. Not just looking at the clients, so to speak.
Not just looking at the clients. Think about the following, because Nicholas and Damian, name me one company that is in the networking business that doesn't put AI on their homepage.
Well, name me one company that's in IT that doesn't put AI in their homepage.
Exactly. However, if you look into AI, building an AI company is slightly different than just putting the name somewhere on a homepage. Yeah, because if you look into traditional companies, it is a product. You have hardware, you have software, you have a start, you have an endpoint, and you release it. That's it. What do you need to have to build a PCB? You need to have people that understand PCBs, understand ASICs, understand all these components, and then you build this all together. Yeah. Now, AI is kind of similar. You have to set up your company in a different way. You need to have data miners. You need to have data trainers. You need to have data verification. You need to have people that can code the algorithms. So all these things need to be there before you actually can release something. Yeah,
right.
And it's a completely different setup. So if sometimes a customer say, "Hey, we do AI as well," the first thing that I ask is, "Well, how are you set up to do proper AI?" Yeah. As another example, and this is really a live example. A customer where we're doing a proof of concept here in Belgium, pretty large organization. I think they have around 560 stores. And that customer, they said, yeah, but Jan, what you guys are doing with Marvis and your AI, we probably do better. We have this team and we do this and this, and this was really wonderful. However, what's happening there was in that scenario, we saw there was one fiber optic cable acting up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, the downside was it was not causing a problem in their connectivity, but their software didn't see it. We saw it, that there was a problem with that fiber cable. Now, it was not a huge impact. However, this week on Monday, we alerted them that 90 stores were offline.
Wow.
90. And the reason was there was a DDoS attack coming from the public network. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we immediately saw that we had problems with ARP resolutions. So we immediately alerted, hey, these stores have ARP resolution issues and it's coming from the WAN. Yeah. Now, what is the advantage here? You can say, so what? Yeah. What normally would happen is clients cannot connect. So they call up the help desk. Then the help desk need to find out why can they not connect. And let's assume you find out that this is your router, but in a hubs and spokes network, how would you find that this router belongs to this hub? And do you see it already happening? We immediately said, these routers have problems. These 90 stores have problems. Boom, you got to look here. We saved them a week of troubleshooting. And can you imagine that stores are closed for a week? That is
horrible.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you mentioned a thing there. We've been talking about Wi-Fi most of the time so far, but obviously, when thinking about networking as a non-networking expert, but really thinking about it, it's really the backbone and the highway of your whole IT infrastructure. I mean, if you don't have a good network, between your sites throughout the world and to things and services you want to connect to, those things won't run smoothly. Damian, do you think, is this applicable to all other parts of networking than just Wi-Fi, or what's going on in that area?
No, I think the same technology has been expanded out. We're seeing it applied to LAN switches, the Ethernet switches that are in offices and campuses and so on. We're seeing it applied to WAN routing as well, inter-site connectivity. And also, it's very hot in the security field as well. Attacks are becoming much more sophisticated. Often the only way you can properly analyze those attacks and identify where they're coming from and how to resolve them is by having the speed that AI will give you to be able to do that. And it's just going to grow. It's going to become massive. This is really where a lot of the development is now. A lot of really interesting technologies coming through.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, I mean, obviously we've had AI episodes talking just about AI, high and low, before, but really the time of AI seems to be now. It influences almost every part of technology, it seems, and not in a small way on the networking part. I mean, I'm kind of blown away with what I'm hearing. Do you then, let's say you have an old network and you want to upgrade, and you're looking for different devices and different vendors and so on. Like, is it possible? Should you start looking at the hardware? Because obviously, when I bought my router, then again, home user here, but still, I was looking at the hardware specs. Obviously, what does this have? And yeah, sure, I checked some. What can I manage? How does the software, the management interface look like? What can I do there? Can I apply a VPN on the router, for instance, and stuff like that? But we're talking about AI and software here and stuff like that. Should you look at the hardware first or the software, or is it a combination? Or is this a weird question?
No, not at all, Nicholas. And Damian, if you don't mind. So, in my point of view, what you need to look into, because I have customers that have hundreds of millions of dollars on IT budget. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But if you see their expenditure on the network is 0.5% of that huge budget, that's the money spent. But if you then see the concerns and worries they have are completely on the opposite, because the network is a big pain in the butt. Yeah, because if that doesn't work or a switch is down, depending on where the switch, your network is out. Just look at this retailer I was just speaking about. And by the way, this is not only for retail that we do this. We have broadcasting companies and so on and so on. Hospitals, doesn't matter. But what is important to keep in mind if you do a migration from an older network to a new network? Yeah. For example, we did a forklift upgrade with a large transport and logistic company that was normally planning to be done in almost 2 years. We did this in 6 months. 6 months. So we opened and freed up a lot of time for other important projects that they need to migrate. That is one thing. The other thing, there was another transport and logistics company. A while ago, there was a bug discovered in the chipset of the access point. And this was not only with us, this is just out of the factory. So what do? You see if you can fix it with software. We could fix it with software. But now this transport and logistic company has to upgrade 30,000 APs. Traditionally, if you need to plan a downtime, this was also taking a long time to make that happen. Yeah. We did this in under 3 hours. The IT manager was so ecstatic that he said, let's do this again, because this was awesome. Yeah. So what is important to keep in mind is where we really shine is day zero, make it simple to configure. Very complex network, collapse core and so on with EVPN, VXLAN. How many lines of code do you need to remember? And if you put somewhere a comma wrong, you're screwed. Now you need to go through all these codes. We do it with a couple of clicks. Day one, zero touch provisioning. Yeah, last weekend I did a benefit concert here. I configured everything from my house the week before, and the people who were building up the stages and everything, they just plugged it in and it lit up and it worked. Yeah, so this is awesome. And then it's the day and operations, upgrade, maintaining, making sure that there are no errors, port flapping, port negotiation that are wrong, cables that might be bad crimped. We light that all up. Damian, maybe you want to add something as well.
Yeah. Well, this ease of management again, I think is a critical way forward. You know, having worked for many years as a network engineer, you know, tippy-tapping away on the command line, spending hours and hours and hours configuring things, and that has two things. That has two impacts on a company really. First of all, they become really dependent on kind of network heroes. You know, unless that really high-level network engineer, probably the one who designed the system, is there to troubleshoot it, you're in trouble if anything happens. We've all just been through a pandemic. What happens if your network hero, you know, suddenly has to work from home or has to self-isolate? So it's about looking at what skills you need to manage your network. And like Jan says, it's like networks don't get a lot of attention except when they go wrong, and then they cost companies millions and millions and millions of pounds. So how do we remove this dependency on network heroes? And the way you do that is by simplifying management. And that's by increasingly looking at things like, you know, cloud management portals that are designed from the ground up to be easy to use. So then your level 1 and your level 2 engineers can be really productive. They're not just like ticket passers, you know, level 1 engineer, which I was for many years, you know, you get a ticket, you pass it on. Now suddenly you're presented with this user interface, you get the AI engine helping you diagnose it. You're suddenly able to resolve 70% of the tickets that come in rather than 10% of the tickets that come in. So it's all about making people more productive. And it's that thing of, you know, when networks are so critical, we can suddenly start to make what was always my dream as a network engineer, which was to make the network invisible. If there was never a problem on the network, if nobody ever thought about the network, that was great because it meant I was doing my job properly. But the whole world was tumbling down and everybody was shouting in my ear, then I knew the network was a problem. So it's all about, it's not just AI to do, you know, some of the fancy things we hear about. It's just about making things just work simpler, better, and troubleshooting more effectively to get things done. So when you say, is it software or hardware? You know, I think increasingly software and this kind of these cloud platforms that allow you to instantly solve a problem. You know, maybe in the future the AI engine will start solving it for themselves. I was talking about that with some colleagues yesterday, and I could just see the look of terror in their eyes. The idea that at the moment the AI engine will tell them what to do, and as a really experienced network engineer, you can you can tick the box and it then happens. But the idea that, maybe in a couple of years' time, the AI engine will go, do you know what? I've seen you do that 50 times. This time, I'm just going to do it myself. Click, it's fixed.
Yep.
That's the kind of future we're looking to. Yep. But it's about doing that gradually, not to make people frightened. But wow, I wish I was a network engineer now, not a network engineer 10 years ago, so my life would have been a lot easier.
Wouldn't you be afraid to lose your job if Marvis goes, and fixes the problems as well?
Oh, there's always work for network engineers.
I guess
there's always work. There is for sure always work in network engineers, because IT, as I said, the network is a 0.5% of the whole thing together. But where I wanted to maybe circle back a little bit, Nicholas, on your question is, would I go for hardware? Would I go for this? First and for all, what we need to see, what product can make my life easier? Yeah. That is one thing, because if it comes down to boxes, the chipsets, take the APs, take the switches, take the routers. Man, we all suffer from, making sure the orders are passing through, because there is a limitation on chipsets coming in. That means everybody's using the same chipset, more or less. Yeah. But it's then the services around it. Yeah. How can I make life easier? How can I correlate the problems better? How can I have, and that is the leading objective here. Do I have a platform where I can migrate easy? And by the way, on the 18th of November, I'm doing another Mist Live. And this is a sneak preview. So this will be the 5th Mist Live. We're going to rebrand it to AI in Action, where we have customer interviews, where we're going to do a live POC. We're going to set up in that session live the proof of concept. And the tagline for this Mist Live or AI in Action is secure migration. How do you migrate in phases? Do I need to do a forklift upgrade, kick everything out, and then bring all Juniper Mist in? No, all these things can be phased out and phased in. To your point, hardware, yes, it has to be able to do the job. You're not going to have with a deux chevaux, that little ugly Doug, you're not going to pull a trailer of 30 tons. No. But you also don't need a truck of 100,000 tons to get some bread or something like that. But everybody has those products. It's just how you're going to get simplicity and user experience, because for us, everything is around user experience end to end. And your network should give you that visibility.
So when you're saying user experience, it's not just a network engineer that is the user here. It's also the users of the actual network. Perhaps.
Yes, exactly. Because user experience, day 1, day 0, that is the user experience for the network engineer. But then later on, if this call is now going really well on video quality, but how many times do we sit in a call? Yesterday I was in a call with a person from Georgia, and he was like, crap. It was really very choppy. The video was not good. And suddenly it was good. I said, what have you done? He said, I changed wireless network. Oh, really? Is that then the root cause? What is the root cause? How is this being patched and so on? So where we are going and are already is that you go into this Marvis, what's wrong with Damian's Teams call? And that we get immediately a path from Damian to the server where they say, okay, wireless is good. Oh, no, there is some interference on wireless. Or there is some jitter on this gateway.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally I'm with you there. I mean, you want to solve your networking issues, not find a workaround. Damian, what do you have? Have you any comments on the end user experience?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's like the nuts and the bolts of yes, my Wi-Fi is good, but I think the other thing, and especially since we're thinking about data, AI is about use of data, and suddenly we have all these capabilities to do some really imaginative things with data. We've just touched on a few things like, based on the data from Wi-Fi, You can create, wayfaring apps. If you're going to a busy university campus, you've got to get to a lecture theatre, you've got no idea where it is. Well, you can connect the Wi-Fi to a little app on your smartphone, and it'll give you a little blue line to follow to get to that thing. Or going to a hospital, you've got to get to the X-ray unit. Oh, have you ever been to some of these hospitals recently? It's like a 5-mile walk to get somewhere, and you can go round and round in circles trying to follow signs. Nope, I'll just follow this little app. It'll take me straight there. And also, asset tracking as well. Again, in a hospital, that you arrive to a hospital, you've got an elderly relative needs a wheelchair, no wheelchairs. Where are the wheelchairs? So either have people running around the hospital trying to find a spare wheelchair, or you can put asset tags on the wheelchair. Again, a little smartphone app. Where's the nearest wheelchair? Click on that, send the porter to it to bring it to the office. So it's this kind of user experience as well. It's like, how can I imaginatively use this data? Yes, so we've got great Wi-Fi. We've got really clever switches that can, reroute traffic automatically. It can be quick to deploy, zero-touch provisioning. I could deploy 500 sites just by plug and play. That is absolutely bread and butter of what we do. But then you take it up a notch and go, right, so now we've got all this data. What can we do with this data? And I think some of the imaginative things and creative things people are doing with that data and AI analysis of data, and really, it gets me excited. I like, if I look at a news thing, this is where I want to read. Think of pandemics. You can get things which will tell you the occupancy of rooms and raise alerts if there's too many people going into a room, so you can go knock on the door and go, do you think maybe you need a bigger meeting room because there's too many of you in here? Or looking at, finding people in an office, locating people. And there you get like the reverse side of AI. On the one hand, we're going to say, yeah, we've got this data and we can do some really cool things. We can make your experience of going to a shopping mall far better. We can point you to the office. We can see what you bought last week. Oh yeah, you just bought some new jeans. Look, this jacket might suit you. This is down in this shop, down in this corner of the mall. There's all this real great user interaction. And then there's the other side of it, which you have to take account of, which is privacy. We all have anxieties about, if I'm going to surrender this data to this AI cloud, how can I be reassured that my data is going to be looked after properly, it's going to be secure, if it's going to protect me, it's going to be to my benefit and not to the benefit of some unknown entity that might be analyzing the data. So I think that's the kind of the next concern about where we're going with this thing is, yeah, we can do some absolutely incredible stuff. How do we balance it? How do we protect people's privacy while we're doing it? Very interesting topic.
Right. Yeah. You took us into the IoT world now, which is super exciting. Something you might not think about when you talk about networks, just networks or Wi-Fi and so on. And so you said something about privacy. It sounds a lot like just the physical world of what's happening on the internet all the time. When you buy something online, so to speak, you get what do you call it? It's called tailor-made advertising for other things that you might want, and that's happening today as well. So I guess that's far wider than just IoT physical mall example, for example. But I mean, let's talk about more about IoT use cases and cool. What does this suddenly open up? If you have a great AI, powered network, Jan, you must have some cool projects.
Oh, for sure, we have very cool projects, and a lot of people see the network still as just a network. Yeah, it needs to push data. However, with the location-based services that Damian just was talking about, wouldn't it be nice? We are kind of post-COVID. Some countries are maybe still in the middle of COVID, but there will be a huge bias even after the period. Yeah, if you just go back into N1H1 or so, this virus a couple of years ago, when you visited the US, there was always these alcohol pumps to disinfect your hands. That was some of these biases. And here, because this was a pandemic, yeah, it will stick to our head. And we will not be very comfortable in touching buttons and stuff like this, like elevator buttons and so on. So because we have great location-based services and they could act upon zones. So now think about the following. You could be a hospital, you could be a hotel, you could be in a mall, you could be in a university where you have multiple levels, that you have an app, and through your app, if you're in a hospital, you're checked in, the hospital knows you're there, you're checked in, they say you need to go to this waiting room or to this floor. Hospital, you're checked in, you go to this floor. In a mall, I can say, hey, via my app, I need to go to this store on that floor. You walk in front of the elevator. The system knows you're waiting for an elevator, calls the elevator. You step into the elevator and it immediately brings you to the floor you need to be. I didn't have to touch any buttons. Those are the things. It sounds like science fiction, but this is possible. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds great. I mean, especially in malls and the airports and hospitals, as you say, where you never find your way.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So these are some of the cool things. The other thing is also the network itself. Yeah, I was doing a little proof of concept for, this was a construction company, and they were doing security surveillance with video cameras on that construction company. But so far, if somebody cuts the cable or disconnects the camera, or if it is an inside job that somebody says port shut down on the switch, how would you know? Who's guarding the gardens? Yeah, or who's watching the guards? Yeah. But with our system, because everything is API driven, everything is JSON driven, we immediately know what's happening. We can trigger an alert that in case somebody cuts the cable, then an acoustic alarm goes off. Or depending on how many people are in a specific room, that we put a warning out to the security or the office manager to say, hey, the limitation was 10 people. We don't know who, to the privacy that Damian said, who is there. We don't know.
No.
But we say the number of people here exceeded the maximum allowed number. Please go and check.
Start the sprinklers in that room.
Yes, exactly. Start the sprinklers in that room or something like this. Yeah.
Okay.
So those are the capabilities with the platform as well.
Wow. I mean, that suddenly it's not about pushing data. It's about this, using data, becoming that futuristic place where you can make it easier for end users. For a mall, for example, people will want to come back to a mall where they can find things super fast and the elevators come by themselves.
Yeah. So sorry to interrupt you, Nicholas, but this just reminded me in my previous life, I think 7 years ago, we were on or 8 years ago, on a business mission with the King of Belgium through the valley. So we had a lot of CEOs from Belgium companies and so on, and we were doing a tour. And on one evening, one of the retail owners here in Belgium, he said to me, he said, Jan, I'm scared. I'm really scared with everything I saw. And I asked him, what do you mean? He said, I think the ceiling of my stores is not strong enough to hang up all the equipment that I saw here to serve my customers. Yeah. Now, take that and take what capabilities we have with just the network.
Yeah.
Yeah. We reduce so many technology and complexity of technology, and we squeeze it down into the network.
Yeah. Right.
So now he can rest assured his ceiling is strong enough to do what he wants to do.
That's good stuff. But to be able to create these, let's take whatever really of the IoT use cases. I guess you need a great network with all the bells and whistles that we've been talking about. Probably, some platform for data collection, and then perhaps an app development. And those are the three pillars of this functionality, perhaps.
Yeah.
Just to clarify that if someone listening to this, got excited.
I think one thing we're going to see is a great emphasis on edge computing, because as you say, there's going to be all this data collection, masses, IoT. We know our IoT is just going to go through the ceiling, but we hope the ceiling is strong enough. But then that data's got to go somewhere. So the question then is, where do you send the data? Does every single binary bit of that data then has to go to the cloud to be analyzed, or what level of that computing will then be done at the edge at the site? And I think that's where we're going to see a lot of movement going forwards, where you get the analysis at the edge. The metadata will go to the cloud for the deeper analysis, for the kind of overarching view of things. But most of this IoT data is going to be done at the edge, and I think we'll see that kind of IoT-related network. And again, this is why we're saying that the platforms like Mist are going to be critical, because an IoT sensor can't raise a trouble ticket. You have to have a system that will automatically detect that critical CCTV camera, that critical temperature sensor in a restaurant oven or a manufacturing process plant. That Wi-Fi has got to be there, and you've got to be able to spot it and fix it quickly. And then that's going to say. So then the emphasis is, what do we do on the edge? We're looking at these sort of like these edge servers that include AI themselves, and they'll be consuming all that network data, analyzing it locally. And I think that's going to be a big development over the next 2 or 3 years as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I mean, imagine in a manufacturing plant where you might have that's the ultimate IoT hub in my world, at least, where every little manufacturing machine is connected and has sensors for heat and pressure and everything. And if something breaks, you might lose millions a minute, or in worst case scenario. And how long does that take? And if the network then can raise that ticket or make someone aware of that issue, you might save a lot of money.
That's for sure. And just think about very simple, we and some of my colleagues say, hey man, isn't this getting a little bit boring? But think about the following. You have that manufacturing plant that is connected to the network. If you take these PLCs, they are connected to the network. However, things happen. Somebody yanks on a cable, a forklift ran into a cable duct. Let's say an office, you're in the printing machine, your phone falls behind the printing machine, you remove the printer, you yank on the cable, you look left, right, put everything back, and you run off. The next one in line cannot print, or now the machine is having some hiccups, or there must have been a new, because production lines are constantly flexible. Yeah, so they need to be refitted, reprogrammed, because now it's a 4-bar chocolate. The next thing is a 6-bar chocolate that need to be wrapped. That has to be programmed, and that also will be automated. But if I cannot push that change to that machine because a cable is broken, at what point would you know it is a broken cable? It could be, is it the PLC that is causing an issue? Is it the station where I'm working on? That is still a lengthy process where we flag it. Yeah. This is wrong.
I think, again, just to highlight a feature of Mist is the ability to upgrade its own firmware as well seamlessly. The different access points, continuous upgrades, because it's a microservices infrastructure in the cloud, which is huge, because I can remember the days when if you wanted to upgrade your Wi-Fi network, you basically had to shut down your Wi-Fi network for several hours. The whole site went blind. To be able to do that incrementally is again a huge advantage. It seems like really, we think, well, why had nobody ever thought of this before? Because it's so obvious. But it's one of those things where you get, that's the habit of way of doing things. Everything has to change at once. It's a disaster.
But in my case, I don't want automatic upgrades, because then my Sonos system won't work.
AI will analyze it. I'll make this change on one access point. Has it improved it? If it hasn't, I'll roll it back. That's the advantage of AI. Yeah.
Plus, Nicholas, an upgrade. How long do you think an upgrade is of a Mist AP?
Depends.
How long would it take?
Depends on how big it is and how big your environment is, obviously.
Just one AP.
One AP. Incremental, I don't know. I mean, a couple of minutes.
15 seconds.
15 seconds. Amazing.
Yeah. 15 seconds. And think about what I said with this transport and logistics company. 30,000 APs, 30,000 APs in less than 3 hours. Think about that. Yeah.
That's pretty.
That was a rolling upgrade, and they didn't have to shut down the warehouse, because when this is the type of company when they're offline for 15 minutes, there is a couple of kilometers of trucks that cannot drop off or pick up their goods. Kilometers.
Yeah, amazing. So I guess, there is obviously a lot to think about when you want to upgrade or change out your network or look into the future. What should we invest in and so on? And we talked about like the importance of really management and the ease of use and cost savings by having those tools to make things go quick and easy and troubleshooting a lot. So I guess initial cost versus total cost of ownership and so on. I guess we kind of answered the financial aspect here because I see a lot of financial benefits to that. But Damian, do you have anything to add? What do you think about? Obviously, it's a big investment if you're a big company to upgrade your network to the latest and greatest.
That's right. I mean, first of all, as Jan said, it could be an incremental. Nobody's going to come along and say, you've now got to change every single device in your network. But it's this thing of, if you've got to look at the bigger picture, the network, the unseen, the Cinderella that kind of isn't seen. But when it goes wrong, wow, companies lose just huge amounts of money. So when you're looking at the cost of a service, it's that total cost of ownership. It's like, what is the impact of me losing my network for how many times? If I've got to do an upgrade once a year, how much time will I lose? How many of these really sophisticated third-line engineers, not that I'm knocking third-line engineers, we're wonderful, but how many of them do I need to employ? What's the expense of that compared to, the trivial cost? This access point costs, 500 euros. This access point costs 700 euros. Oh, I'll go for the 500 ones because it saves money. But, I've now got to employ a load more third-line engineers who we all love, but they're expensive. Not for me, I'm worth it, but all the other third-line engineers are really expensive, So it's all of that thing of, what's the real cost of IT? And when you look at that, you start to see that these solutions that can bring in AI benefits, that can bring in the simplicity of management, and also increase productivity. And also, I'm not going to knock just making people's, we talk about user experience as though it's something that is a technical thing. It's nice to go to work and just to be able to get on with your work. Going to work and sitting there with a laptop that doesn't work is an absolute pain in the bum. So I'm not going to say, how do you put a cost on that when you look at total cost of ownership? If you're a university, you're looking at student retention. It's like, all right, so nobody's going to go to a different university. But what review are they going to give that university on the website if the Wi-Fi is rubbish?
Especially if you live on the campus and have that issue.
Yeah. And it's also sometimes a limited time you have to roll out. And let me support this with two examples, one from a university, one from a retail. I started Mist virtually in the very beginning in EMEA. Yeah, we were with just a handful of people, 2-3 people, I think, official on the paycheck or on the payroll. And I had a project in France, and it was running for a while. And I met the customer, and the customer said, "Hey, Jan, Mist seems great, all good, but we're going to go with your competitor." Yeah. And I said, "Why?" Well, he said, "You guys have the same problem as your competitor. You're not different." I said, "But what's the issue?" He said, "Well, yesterday, a couple of our, coworkers here couldn't connect to the network, and it's the same as with the other company." I said, "But do you know what was wrong then?" He said, "No, we don't know." I said, "Well, let me show you the artificial intelligence. Have you used this?" He said, "No." I said, "Well, that's why this button is here, And I typed in unhappy users. I said, "Could it be that this guy could not connect yesterday?" And he shouted at him and said, "Yeah, I could not." I was like, "Oh, yeah, well, he had a DNS issue." And show me. It's like, here, this DNS server. And they had a suspicion that there's something was not okay with the DNS server. But instead of investigating that DNS server because it was long and, and they had to, we pointed it out here, this in the DNS server is wrong. That was the moment they decided to go with Mist. Another example, because that customer is now a full stack customer for a long time, very happy, and I still see some new business coming through. In Finland, we had a university where the university said, we are standardized with the largest networking company in the world, and we're going to go there. And I said, hey, why don't we still do a proof of concept with Mist? He said, no, Jan, we have a really good price with them, and you will never be able to meet this price, we think, and so on and so on. I said, but still, can we do a proof of concept? And we twisted his arm, and he said, okay, sure, you can give a building. I said, also give me your worst building, and I will turn on the lights for you. So we installed this, and it was running for a while. And I got this text on my phone, and I called up the guy. I said, hey, man, you have a missing VLAN on this switch. He said, no, Jan, cannot be. It must be something wrong on your side. We have this huge DNA platform and so on and so on. There are templates, and this is all structured. Cannot be. I said, well, it is true. Do me a favor. Log into that switch via the CLI and do a show interface or show VLANs on the interface. And guess what? There was a VLAN missing. Do I have the config of that switch? No. Do I have an interaction with that huge management platform? No. But we discovered through our AI that the VLAN was missing. That was the moment this customer decided to go with us. Because we turn on light on things they didn't even know.
Right. And that you can put a value on as well. And
exactly.
You got to include that in your calculations when looking at these things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. I think we're running out of time, actually. Do you have anything more to add? I want to thank you guys for being on.
Well, for me, the why, the what, the how is so important. Why Juniper Mist? Because we monitor the end user experience offline or online. Why do I say offline, online? Online, connected to the network. Offline, location-based services. Yeah. And this is not, offline is maybe not offline from the network, but just location-based services, how accurate what we do. What do we do there? We do fundamentally things different. We take every 2 seconds over 150 parameters of every connection, and that is going to the cloud. That is a tremendous amount of data that we analyze. Yeah. And how do we do this? By applying artificial intelligence on all that data and giving insights in location, in what is going wrong, what applications are doing the right thing, and so on and so on. So that is just in a like a high level view. What is now Juniper Mist and what is our goal?
Cool. Thank you, Damian. Anything to add to that?
Very little, really. I mean, I don't want to sort of get into being cheesy, but I think this is why Proact chose to partner with Juniper, really, because our philosophies around focusing on customer and user experience are so well aligned. We don't want to just have a service that's there and hasn't got trouble tickets. We really want to bring added value to customers. We want them to think that it was worthwhile partnering with Proact, not just that we kept a switch powered on. We really want them to feel as though they got something more from that experience than that, and I think that's why we're really happy to partner with Juniper in these ways.
Thank you, Damian.
We've heard a lot of those other reasons than just shuffling data around today, and I think this has been very interesting, and I've learned a lot of things about where networking is going today. Thank you very much, Jan. It's been a pleasure having you on. Thank you, Damian. Pleasure having you on as well.